Well, welcome back to Canuck Air. This looks like an unboxing video. I promise I won't do any more of these or many more of these. Just that this is a bit of an unusual circumstance. I bought something and I don't really know what's inside the box. I'm sharing the opening of you with it because I think it's kind of fun to discover what I've got here. I don't know what I've got exactly, at least not yet. Yes, it is supposed to be a Diana Model 15. That's what I bought off the gun shop's website. It just said they were selling it as is with some issues. I thought it would. I could have probably given them a call, asked more information, maybe got some photographs sent to me, but yeah, I thought it'd be kind of cool to just buy it and have some fun with it, because that's the whole point here, you know, to have fun with these things. It's not an investment. This isn't going to be a serious tool because a Diana 15 is classed as a toy air rifle. Although, quite frankly, something that could shoot a bird off the back fence I wouldn't consider a toy these days, and I don't think most people would. But back in its day, it was considered to be a definite step down from a serious air gun, but a step up from a pop gun. So, what do we got here? Why do I say I don't know exactly what it is? Well, a Diana 15 could be one of three things. Meyer and Grammelsbacher put them into production in 1930, added them to their catalog. It was a step up from their very basic Model 1. It replaced another model or two, I think, but this one was billed as a Hinterlader, which means breech loader, and any young boy at the time would have known that that's what he wanted. You broke the gun open, put a pellet in it, closed it up, just like the more serious air guns that maybe dads would have bought for themselves. It was made during the 1930s. Obviously, when the war years came along, it went out of production. Meyer and Grammelsbacher were pressed into producing other things for the war effort on the German side of stuff, and so the air gun was out of production. And of course, after the war, it didn't go back into production because German manufacturers were prohibited from making even things as air guns in the post-war years, and Meyer and Grammelsbacher had their tooling and designs and everything put up for auction as war reparations, and were sold to the Millard brothers in Scotland, otherwise known as Milbro, and they put the guns back into production, including the Model 15 by about 1950-51. So this could be a pre-war, made in Germany, Diana Model 15, or it could be a post-war, made in Great Britain, Scotland actually, Model 15. It could also be one more thing, and that is that Meyer and Grammelsbacher and other German companies were allowed to get back into the air gun business in the 1950s as well. And they tooled up and they put their guns back into production, including a version of the model, a newer, updated version of the Model 15, and that was sold in various places, and it could be one of those. I don't think it is. It's less likely to be that because those guns weren't sold under the Diana name. They were the same gun, but they had a different marking on them depending on where they were sold. In England, they were sold under the name Original. I don't know what they were sold as in Canada, if they were sold here at all. So, it could be one of three things. And as I said, I can probably rule out the West German model. So, is it an older 1930s gun or a later English one? If I had to guess, I'd probably guess on England. Let's see what we got. As I said, I bought this sight unseen. It wasn't terribly expensive, but the shipping was. So by the time I've got it, I've clearly paid too much for it. But as I said, it isn't really about the investment. It's more about the fun of it. Would I get my money's worth out of it fun-wise? Hope I will. Oh, here she is. It is surprisingly light. Oh my gosh. I think the air gun book lists this as being just over 1 kilo in weight. So that's pretty lightweight. And pretty short. But again, it was intended for a younger shooter. Probably, you know, target market, 8-10 years old maybe. There we go. And there it is, made in Great Britain. Awesome. Let's see. Wow, yeah, okay, there it is. So these are clearly not original to the gun. They could use replacement or improvement. Something's obviously missing here. That's actually just going to fall right out. It said the stock was loose, but it actually isn't. No, I thought this would be loose here, but it's actually in pretty good shape. It's obviously quite dirty. The barrel isn't latching up very tight, but then that's probably because this has been replaced. This was one of the clever parts of the Model 15, was the barrel latch. Is this very clever little system here that actually wraps around when it closes the pin through there. So if that is, it may just be loose. I think it is just loose. So when anything's tightened up here, that should probably lock up pretty well. Leather seal is on the. That's kind of furred up. If you can see that, we'll get a closer look at that later. And the barrel, you call this an air rifle all you like, but it isn't. It's smooth bore, so technically it's an air gun. But there is a spring there, and it does release. So, yeah, as I said, they call this a air gun class is a toy air gun. That front sight is correct. It looks a little bent. You can probably straighten that up a bit. And what makes it a toy is the fact that it's not made from milled, machined steel. This is all folded metal. You can see a seam down here. It's all wrapped around, much in the same way that manufacturers made tin plate toys back in the day. Toy trains, toy cars, toy airplanes, things like that. Brightly painted. They called it tin plate because it would be steel, and they would plate it in tin before they painted it. Being an air gun, there'd be no tin involved. They just make it, and they would either blue it in this case, or nickel plated. Some of them were nickel plated, but so here we go, a Model 15. Interesting little adventure to see how we can clean it up, fix it up, and see if it's fun to shoot. Oh, and here we go. There we go. And there is a date code on here, 1049, which means it was made October 1949. The Milbro concern in England continued the German practice of using the date code on the stock somewhere. So that's kind of fun. There is a lot of dirt in this gun, but nothing that can't be sorted out. The main concern is just tightening it up, I think. Huh. Well, there we go. A project, and we'll see how it proceeds. So here we are taking the Diana apart. It comes apart pretty easily. Undo the main screws that go through from the stock, the trigger, pull off the trigger guard. This is a little tight, but pop the end off, and we get at the various pieces inside, including the barrel. They undo those. The non-standard hardware was a bit of a mess, but it came off eventually. Pop out the spring, not much pressure on that, and then pull out the piston. Remove the cocking lever, and we've got the gun pretty much stripped down. So let's take a closer look at this piston. What's missing here? There's no seal.
It's got to be still stuck up inside the piston tube somewhere. I'll have to try and get that out. Not sure how it was attached. Riveted probably, and probably leather. Oh boy, have to get into that. Somewhere it's up in there. First off, we'll pull out the breech seal here, which is looks like it's blocking the transfer port hole, and it's pretty much disintegrated. So, yeah, this is old leather. Time to replace it. And there's a brass tube inside there. You can barely see it, and it's plugged with more of that crud. I'll have to get that out. And probably have to remove the transfer port too, just to see what else is going on in there. Obviously, the piston seal is stuck inside there somewhere. The barrel's easy enough. If you unscrew that, I loosened it a little bit there, but the front sight actually holds on the end cap. So, yeah, slide that off, tap it off with the hammer mallet here. And, yeah, there we go. There's the end of the barrel there. A brass barrel. And some sort of steel retainer. Doesn't come out the front, so we'll tap it out the back. And the problem here is that the rear sight is stopping the barrel from coming out, but the barrel stops the rear sight from coming out. It's kind of a chicken and egg problem here. I discovered with some fiddling, if you hold the barrel in just the right angle, you can get the sight out, and then the barrel comes out. Tap it a bit further, and we finally get to that sweet spot where we can get it apart. Once the barrel's out, take a closer look at it. As I say, there's a brass barrel, but it's inside this steel sleeve, which is kind of interesting. Gives it a bit more rigidity, stops it from bending a bit. Put a little blade in there. You can see the blade kind of goes in and stops. And the brass barrel is seamless, wouldn't have a seam in it. So I'm going to collect up all the parts that are pretty greasy and grimy and throw them in the ultrasonic cleaner. Still haven't found that piston seal yet. I discovered a wooden dowel could go down there and pop out the transfer port and the piston seal. Yep, got that out. That should be attached to the end of the piston. Obviously the rivet came loose. Doesn't look like that's going to go on there easily. Probably have to either make a new rivet or something. Something else going on there too. Yeah. These things have been all mashed together for so long, it's hard to know what goes where. Well, we're making some progress here on the Diana 15. After I got it all apart, discovered a few things were just really probably beyond saving. That is the breech washer, which I think I showed you before. That supposedly sits in there. It's pretty much leather from the 1940s, falling apart. Likewise, the piston seal, I was really hoping to save this, but it's kind of swollen, some cuts and tears in it that don't look good. So, yeah, that's had to junk that. Made a new piston cup out of leather for that. So that's just how it's supposed to be: piston cup, some sort of fiber washer backup, and then a solid washer on the back there with a washer. And I replaced that screw. Originally it was a rivet, had to punch it out, and I tapped it and threaded it for that screw there. So that should work fairly well. Further inside, this is the original transfer port right here, and putting it into the gun and pushing it through, it kind of seemed to come up a bit short. It wasn't making it right to the end of this this part right here. So I made a longer one, then trimmed it down to size, and that will go through and just kind of comes through and will push into the back of the new breech seal. So hopefully that will work well. Also discovered inside the piston tube there is a leather washer. That was kind of hard to crust right now. That's kind of my fault. But got that out, and this also backed up with, looks like a hard fiber abutment washer too. Fairly complicated setup. So that goes, then this on that goes through, sticks out the back, and then you've got the breech seal right there. I guess you got to do a lot more little fiddly parts when you're dealing with a gun made out of folded metal instead of machined steel. So hopefully that will all work well. We'll put them in and see what happens. The other project discovered, of course, was the original screws going through the gun. We only had one original nut. So the solution that the previous owner had was to use non-standard hardware. This is obviously undersized, and it was rattling around inside the forend here and was ovalizing this hole, which is obviously not good. I was very fortunate to find some screws that are metric threaded with slot on them, and that goes through like that. I will of course shorten this down to fit, but I have made new slotted nuts to go over the top there, so there we go. Next step, let's get it all put together and see how it works. Well, here it is. The Diana Mark 15 is back together again for the first time. It does cock, but I haven't fired it yet. It locks up nicely. All the pieces are there. Well, here's a fairly lightweight pellet. Crossman dome. They're supposed to weigh about 7 grains. So let's see if this little gun can successfully fire a pellet like that out the barrel. Let's give it a shot. I got my backstop right there. There we go. It fired. My chronograph says it crossed at 408 feet per second, which astonishes me. I honestly wouldn't have thought it would have gone past 300, so let's give it another try. See if it was an anomaly. 406. .384. I'm surprised. I honestly didn't think these little guns had that kind of power. It's a fairly small spring. Not a lot of effort required to cock it. .430. Definitely more potent than your typical Daisy BB gun, which were, you know, they were designed to be cocked from a lever right here, which obviously not a lot of mechanical advantage there compared to swinging a barrel. 418. Well, this is fairly promising. I'm surprised and a little impressed. 405. I'm going to have to take this out to the range and see how it shoots accuracy-wise. I'll keep it to 10 meters or less. Can't be that potent a gun, but and it is a smoothbore after all, so don't expect stellar accuracy from it. But that's 396. But I do imagine that a young boy who received this maybe as a Christmas gift on Christmas Day, 1949, he would have been really thrilled with this. Yeah, hopefully we've brought it back to some of its former glory, and maybe have another life of its own going forward. Next step, we need to see how it shoots at the range. So here we are at the range. Set up at 10 meters, which is about as far as I'm going to try with this little gun. It is a smoothbore after all, and yeah, obviously never intended to be a long-range gun. Drop the first pellet on the floor, so I'll try again with a Crossman dome pellet. In it goes. The first struggle is the trigger pull on the gun is heavier than the gun itself. There's a reason why serious target rifles are very heavy and the trigger pulls are light. This is the other way around. So it's a struggle to hold the gun steady and keep the sights on the target, but somehow we manage. And we try with the Crossman domes first, and they shoot all over the place. Gun doesn't like them at all. Don't even know where some of them went. The G-Co wad cutters did a little better. 36 millimeter horizontal dispersion, 21 millimeters vertically. So my theory there is when I was pushing the rear sight over, because the gun does shoot significantly to the left, I think the vibrations were pushing the sights just a little bit back every time I shot. So might have to see if we can sort that out. But all in all, the gun turned out very nicely. Cleaned up the metalwork quite a bit. Hit it with the torch just to kind of darken the metal a little bit. I tried some cold bluing. It didn't look good. It's got dents. It's got scratches. It's got, corrosion freckles in it here and there. But it is over 70 years old, so it's probably entitled to have a few signs of its long life. Here's the vital stats on the gun in case you're interested. All turned out very well, and I'm quite happy with the performance. Quite surprised it did as well as it did. There's probably see if we can find a way to make it shoot a little bit closer to the center of the target. Figure that out sometime later on. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll have more coming soon. Thanks.